Good evening. We're trying this. Bear with us. It should work. If you have a cell phone, this would be a good time to turn it off. Um, so, next Tuesday at noon for Lunch with Books, we're going to talk about two African American men who were soldiers and did things. They're not well known, but they should be. One is called Robert Smalls, and he commandeered a Confederate ship during the Civil War and took it to Union lines, and then was a congressman from South Carolina during Reconstruction. And he's from Beaufort, South Carolina, and there's a museum of Reconstruction there that he is honored in. And the other one is David Fagan, and I'll let you hear more about him if you come on Tuesday. Next Thursday, our instructor, who you'll meet this evening, Jennifer, will be back, and the second class is called The Wonderful World of Fishes. Tonight's class, as you can see, is Fintastic Fishes. So our instructor is Dr. Jennifer Ripley Stuckel. She earned an MA in Marine Biology from the Boston University Marine Program, located in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, and a PhD in biology from West Virginia University. Her research primarily focuses on the reproductive physiology of fishes and the influence of environmental factors, particularly endocrine disruptors on parental investment, embryonic development, and behavior. This will all be on the quiz, so I hope you're paying attention. Her research has taken her down the coast of Baja California to study barnacle recruitment, to the eelgrass beds of the Chinacoteague Bay, to study brute pouch function in pipefishes and seahorses. Recent projects have investigated sound production in kitchlid, I know I'm saying that wrong, mating, and the smallmouth bass fish kills of the Potomac River. Please welcome Dr. Jennifer Ripley Stuckel.
Thank you all so much. So next week, I'll be sharing with you a lot of that research. So this week is kind of an introduction to fishes. I have been studying fish. Gosh, I'm trying to even remember. I remembered I went to Chincoteague Bay. That it was called Chincoteague Bay. I went there as an 8th grader on a field trip, and that's when I fell in love with fish. And it was kind of a full circle moment when I was able to go back and do my PhD there. So I'll share with you that field station because they offer all kinds of great summer programs for students of all ages, from youngins at 8 years old up to college students, and they even offer family trips, and they even have a special camp for grandparents with their grandchildren, and you can stay overnight and go explore. So I'll share that next week. This week I'm just going to kind of give you a background on fishes, and I'll share some of the cool research I did next week when I come back. So approximately 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, with about the remaining 29% consisting of continents and islands. The vast majority of this water, about 96.5, 97%, is contained within the oceans as saltwater, while only a small fraction is freshwater. And of the 3% of the water on the Earth that is freshwater, most of it is actually locked up in ice caps, glaciers, or very deep underground. Aquatic habitats are classified as freshwater, marine, or brackish, depending on salt content. So for freshwater habitats, we consider those low salt content. Those are lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, and various wetlands. Marine habitats are our saltwater habitats. Those are open ocean, deep sea vents, coastal shorelines, and different coral reefs. And then brackish are a mixed environment, and those are estuaries, mangroves, and saltwater or salt marshes where freshwater meets the sea. If you just consider marine habitats alone, there are over 1,000 different recognized marine habitats when you consider ecological classifications. With such diversity in these aquatic habitats comes diversity in the organisms that live there. The overriding biological principle that I study and that most biologists study is that form equals function. So organisms evolve traits that make them successful in their environments. Fish are among these most diverse creatures on the planet. There's over 30,000 different species occupying nearly every single aquatic habitat imaginable. This vast distribution has led to the evolution of a stunning variety of behaviors and body shapes, allowing these fish to survive in environments ranging from the deep sea abyss to the shallows of salt marshes. Their shapes vary from thin ribbon like bodies, as you can see, to very sleek torpedo like shapes. Um, and each design of a fish body is perfectly aligned to their specific lifestyle. So tuna, flounder, and pipefish might all have fins and gills, but each live in drastically different lives beneath the waves. So, to better understand why fish have such diversity, we can kind of draw on an analogy that may be more similar to you or more familiar cars. Okay, so minivans versus Indy 500 race cars. They look nothing alike, and that's for a good reason. They are built to do very different things. Race cars are designed to be incredibly fast, while minivans are essential for transporting large families and cargo. A minivan racing in the Indy 500 would be left in the dust, as its little squat form is no match for that slick and aerodynamic shape of a race car. But likewise, a sports car would be a very impractical choice for a family vacation. So the same idea or concept applies to fish. Each fish species has a body shape that's perfectly suited for its lifestyle, how it moves, where it feeds, and the environment it inhabits. So, like cars, fish can be classified into categories based on their individual features. So we'll talk about some of these different forms, and we'll start with very fast fish like tuna and marlin. These are some of the fastest fish in the sea. They rely on this bullet-shaped body, which we call a fusiform shape, to obtain these such fast speeds. So fusiform bodies, they're streamlined, as you can see here. They allow these animals to glide effortlessly through the water while minimizing drag as well. This drag would otherwise drastically slow them down. So as a result, fish with a fusiform shape are often found in open water where speed and efficiency are key to survival. So this is the striped marlin that you can see here. He exemplifies this ideal fusiform shape. It has this elongated body with a deeply forked tail. So we're going to learn all about these shapes and the names later on. But you can see this tail has a big fork in it here. These two body shapes allow this striped marlin to make vast migrations across the open ocean at incredible speeds of up to 50 miles per hour. So it's one of the fastest, but not the fastest, we'll find that out later, fish in the ocean. Okay, so though fish with that fusiform shape are common in the open ocean environments, it's not the only form that we see in these pelagic or open ocean environments. For example, this is the ocean sunfish. He is found in the open ocean settings as well, and he has, as you can see, a laterally compressed shape. So he has a very shortened tail. You can see his tail is really short. He's compressed laterally. The shortened tail is actually called a clavus, Clavus. That's what the tail is called. And he has that tail because it helps him control the direction of his very slow moving body. This side to side compression that we're seeing here, this flattening of the body, is called compressiform. So some pelagic or open ocean fish, like the ocean sunfish, might have this body shape. Usually compressiform fish are found in benthic or bottom dwelling fishes or in what we call demersal fishes, so fishes that live in close proximity to the bottom, so either on the bottom or close to the bottom. But we do see this compressiform shape in a lot of reef fish families. So you can think of it in the butterfly fish, angelfish, surgeonfish. Those are really great examples also of this lateral compressiform shape. So compressiform, so here's one of those fish, those reef fish I was just talking about. Compressiform fish are experts in moving really quick and with agility. They don't really have that sustained speed that we saw with the fusiform fish earlier. So their flattened bodies make them highly maneuverable. They give them the ability to dart in and out of tight spaces like reef crevices with ease. This agility is crucial as a defense mechanism. It helps them to avoid predators that relied on speed or maybe stealth to capture prey. Um, Now, this compressed body shape does lead them to be a little bit instability. It seems kind of counterintuitive, but it actually makes their movements more unpredictable and difficult for predators to anticipate. So as a result, fish that have this compressiform face, they do live in these reef environments and these complex environments because it does require these quick reflexes, these agile bodies, and so they can move in and out of different reefs and wrecks and docks and so forth. Okay, so unlike that lateral flattening, we saw that side to side flattening in the compressiform, these are depressiform fish. So they're flattened top to bottom, giving them kind of like a pancake like appearance. This shape is particularly advantageous for fish that live on the sea floor, where they will remain in close contact with the bottom, and they benefit from reduced exposure to fast moving water. It keeps them kind of in place down there. In addition to their flattened bodies, many of these depressiform fish, they have what are called elongated pectoral fins. So these fins that you can see right here on the side of the body, that's a pectoral fin. And these larger fins here located on either side, they help stabilize the fish, and even in some species, they can grip the bottom, which will anchor them into place. So this is what's called the pancake batfish. This is a perfect example of a depressiform fish, uniquely adapted to living on the ocean floor. You can see it is highly flattened head and body. It's got a very drab, sandy coloration. It allows it to blend in basically seamlessly with the surrounding seafloor. This guy, this pancake batfish, is what's called an ambush predator. So he remains completely motionless and he's patiently waiting for small invertebrates or small fish to pass by. And at that point, he will spring into action to capture his prey. When he does need to move, this creature that's usually relatively still, he'll walk on those enlarged pectoral fins so he can kind of slowly navigate the seafloor instead of swimming. This guy. This guy, like the pancake batfish we just saw, this is a flatfish, Plectoniformes. These are a group of fish of over 800 species that are characterized by that depressiform body shape, that are, perfectly adapted to living on life on the seafloor. These are some of the most commercially valuable species, like flounder and halibut. So you've probably have eaten these at some time. These flatfishes, they go through a really complex metamorphosis as they develop. It's a very rapid period of change, and one of their eyes migrates over to the other side of their head. So they're not born that way, it happens during their metamorphosis. And so they end up with this asymmetrical body plan with both eyes on the upper side of their head, their bodies. Um, So, like all the other depressiform fish, they do lie on the ocean floor. These guys will often bury themselves in the sand or mud to avoid predators and to hunt for prey. And some of them even have specialized cells that are called chromatophores that will rapidly change colors to even allow them to blend in further with their environment. Okay, so we've seen the depressiform fish. They rely on concealment to evade predators and capture prey, excuse me. These are called globiform fish. So globs. These are rounded or globe kind of shaped figures here. They take a very different approach to defense. These species that you can see here are pufferfish, and these are called trunkfish. They are usually very slow moving. They lack speed to escape any predators. But what they do instead is they depend on different adaptations like camouflage, warning colors, toxins. Pufferfish has toxins, they have spikes, and this ability to inflate their bodies to appear larger to deter different threats from them. So the way we study as a fish biologist, we study how a fish's body type enables it to perform essential behaviors. So what scientists call this field is functional morphology. It allows researchers to detect similarities between extinct and living organisms as well. So if you look here at this example, let's go back to this ichthyosaur here. These were extinct marine reptiles that first appeared during the Triassic period, so about 251 million years ago. So scientists, we can't travel back in time, but what we can do instead is we can compare the anatomical features of this ichthyosaur to modern day animals. And by studying the skeletal remains and the preserved soft tissue, what we've been able to find out is that some of these later ichthyosaurs shared some features with today's sharks and dolphins. So, for example, you can see they had a compact torpedo-shaped bodies, and they had these crescent-shaped tails that we see in fish today. So the influence of the environment on evolution is really striking here. So despite sharing this very similar body plan between all four of these, you can see that the shad, the ichthyosaur, the dolphin, they're not closely related. They're very distantly related. So they didn't inherit this body shape from a shared ancestor at all. So instead, what happened is these very unrelated species, they all evolved independently of each other to this fusiform body shape because they faced similar environmental challenges. And this process is what we call convergent evolution. So it explains how different species have arrived at a similar solution to solve the same problem. Basically, scientists believe that there's like a limited number of ways to design fast swimming aquatic organisms. And so dolphins, ichthyosaurs, tunas, pelagic sharks, like makos and stuff, they all evolved this same streamlined fusiform body to move efficiently through open water. Okay, so I've been talking about fish like we all know exactly what a fish is. But what are fish? We have to decide what a fish is. So all of these are fish. Our definition of what a fish is kind of loose. So all fish, we say, they all have a brain. It's protected by a brain case. They have an obvious head region with eyes, teeth, other sensory organs. And then this is where what a fish is are most, but not all. So kind of fishes are vertebrates. So all fish, we say, they all have a brain, a spinal cord. It's protected by a brain case. Most fishes live in water. They have an obvious head region with eyes, with teeth, gills, other sensory organs. Most of what a thing fish
in the
is
form of
are
fins
most
that help them
but not all
develop
is
emotions.
so
Kind
most
of fishes
fishes
are
so all fish we say they all have a brain.
a spinal cord.
It's protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region
with
primarily
with
with gills, other sensory organs.
Hagfish.
Most of what a thing fish is
form of
are
fins
most
that help them
but not all
develop
is
emotions.
so kind of fishes are vertebrates. So all fish we say they all have a brain.
A spinal cord.
It's protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region
with
primarily with
some of the
gills,
exceptions,
other
other than
sensory
lungs.
organs.
Hagfish don't
Most of what a thing fish is are most
that help
but
them
not all
develop
is
emotions.
so kind of fishes are vertebrates. So all fish we say they all have a brain.
A spinal cord.
It's protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region primarily with gills, other sensory organs.
Hagfish don't
Most of what a thing fish is are most
that help
but
them
not all
develop
is so kind of fishes are so all fish we say they all have a brain.
A spinal cord.
It's protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region primarily with gills, other sensory organs.
Hagfish don't
Most of what a thing fish is are most but not all is so kind of fishes are so all fish we say they all have a brain.
A spinal cord.
It's protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region primarily with gills, other sensory organs.
Hagfish don't
Most of what a thing fish is are most but not all is so kind of fishes are so all fish we say they all have a brain. A spinal cord is protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region primarily with gills, other sensory organs.
Hagfish don't
Most of what a thing fish is are most but not all is so kind of fishes are so all fish we say they all have a brain. A spinal cord is protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious head region primarily with gills, other sensory organs.
Hagfish don't
Most of what a thing fish is are most but not all is so kind of fishes are so all fish we say they all have a brain. A spinal cord is protected by a brain case. Most fishes they have an obvious
talk about fish, most of what they're thinking about are these ray fin fishes, but that's just one type of fish. What's really interesting, now this is probably beyond your scope, so this is showing you again a phylogenetic tree of fishes here, is that the term fish is very convenient. We use it to describe this diverse group of aquatic organisms, but it's not a taxonomic group. So we can't use it as like a phylogenetic classification. So like we use the term vertebrates and we all know they have a backbone, okay? Or if we say hominids, we know those are human structures. So what is interesting about fish is because phylogenetic groups, taxonomic groups, must be clades. So a clade is a group that includes all descendants of a common ancestor. Okay, and that clade includes that ancestor and all the different organisms that came from that ancestor. Now with fish, we don't have a common ancestor and we don't all come from that same common ancestor. So if you look at this phylogeny, you can see here, almost everything you see up here is a fish, okay? But there's one exception. This lobe fin fishes that you see here, it's called lobe fin fishes, and look at this, and tetrapods. Tetra means four. Those are four-legged vertebrates thrown in here. These are frogs. These are dinosaurs. These are bats. And these are even us humans. So when you look at this phylogeny, this is totally non-fish related, nested into this fish tree of life. So fish don't form a clade like we usually think of. They're very diverse and kind of odd in that way. Okay. Just for some fun, before we talk about more form and function, I was going to kind of go through the fish superlatives. So, fish that kind of do the extremes, some fish you might not have seen before. So, we'll do some of these. So, which fish has the shortest lifespan? This guy here is called the coral reef pygmy goby. He has the shortest known lifespan of any vertebrate, not just fish, but any vertebrate. His maximum lifespan is 59 days. So he is native to the Indo-Pacific region. This fish, again, compresses its entire life cycle from a larvae to adult maturation to death in just under 8 weeks. Whoops, wrong way. And which one has the longest lifespan? So I show you different animals that live the longest. For fish, the one with the largest lifespan is actually a shark, the Greenland shark here. He has the longest lifespan of any fish and actually any vertebrate as well. You see a lot of these are not vertebrates, they're invertebrates up here. But he has the longest lifespan of any fish and any vertebrate. Estimates range between 250 and 500 years. And the reason why is because the Greenland shark lives in the deep freezing waters of the North Atlantic and the Arctic. So they live a very slow life with a very low metabolism. And they often don't even reach sexual maturity until about 150 years old. There was one study in about 2016, I think, where they estimated a Greenland shark to be 392 years old. So again, they're the longest lived vertebrates on the planet. This is the smallest fish. This is a tiny carp. He lives in peat swamps in Sumatra. The mature females reach only about 7.9 millimeters, which is less than a third of an inch. And every single picture of this fish is on somebody's finger. They do not have a picture of a fish free swimming by himself. They have them all on someone's finger to really show you the size of this tiny little fish. The whale shark, if you've ever been down to the Georgia Aquarium, is the world's largest fish. This is a very docile filter feeder. He can reach lengths over 40 feet. He can weigh up to 40 tons. And these are very gentle giants. They live in warm tropical waters and they often feed on plankton and small fish. And just to compare how big this really is, you can look at the size of different sharks compared to a scuba diver here. And this is about the size of a whale shark to that scuba diver. So these things are huge. And again, if you've ever been down to the Georgia Aquarium, if you have not, I would suggest going down there because just seeing the whale sharks in captivity is a once in a lifetime event. Okay, fastest fish. So we saw that marlin earlier that went up to 50 miles per hour, but he's not the fastest. It's actually the sailfish here. He is the fastest fish. He's capable of reaching speeds up to 70 miles per hour in short bursts out in the open ocean. These sailfish, again, are known for their dramatic sail-like dorsal or back fin, and they have this really long, sharp-like bill that you can see here. But these guys are known for their extreme speed and their precision hunting. And that takes us to the slowest fish. These are guys that I study. This is the dwarf seahorse. He's the slowest fish in the world. He has a top speed of about 5 feet per hour. So he goes approximately 0.01 miles per hour. He's native to the Bahamas and the U.S. coastal waters. They're really tiny. They're about 2 inches. They have rigid bodies, and they rely, you can't see it very well in this picture, on this very small dorsal fin to move. They often use their tails to anchor on to the seagrass rather than swimming themselves because they can't get anywhere very fast, that's for sure. Ooh, this is considered one of the prettiest fish. So now we're talking about pretty fish. This is a mandarin dragonet. It has a very psychedelic type of blue, orange, yellow, green patterns on it. Betta fish, which are very popular aquarium or pet fish, are also considered some of the prettiest fish. And then individuals also consider lionfish, which are venomous with their spines, very pretty fish, which is quite opposite to our next guy. This is considered the ugliest fish. This is the blobfish, and he has famously won the Ugly Animal Preservation Society contest. So he is the blobfish. He is native to deep waters off of Australia, and he has this very gelatinous, you can tell, blob-like appearance when he's removed from his high-pressure habitat. So the thing about him is, this is him in water, this is him out of water. So his saggy, droopy look that you see here is due to decompression damage when he's brought to the surface, where his body basically expands. So when he lives in his normal habitat, he's 2,000 to 4,000 feet underwater. And so he looks like a normal-ish fish. He lacks muscles. He doesn't have a swim bladder that he can use for buoyancy. So he usually just floats right above the seabed floor. He is a carnivore. He eats mostly crustaceans and mollusks and sea urchins and stuff. Another contender for ugliest fish you guys might be familiar with is the anglerfish. So that fish that lives in the deep sea that has the fake fishing rod over him that he would draw other fish in with his bioluminescent lure. That's another contender, but I definitely think this is a face only a mother could love there. So the rarest fish. This is the devil's hole pupfish. He is considered the rarest fish in the world. They have a population that's only about 1 to 200 individuals. They are endemic to a single deep geothermal cavern in Nevada's Death Valley National Park. So they live in the smallest habitat, since it's so specific, of any known vertebrates. They keep track of the population. It got to its lowest point in 2013. There was only about 35 individuals at that time. And this is a shocker. The most abundant fish in the world is this scary guy. He is called the bristlemouth. And he is a really tiny deep sea fish. They have an estimated population in the hundreds of trillions or even quadrillions. They are considered the most abundant vertebrates on Earth. So they live in the ocean's twilight zone. It's usually 300 to 1,000 meters. I'm talking meters deep here. These guys, these bristlemouths, are so numerous that on average there's likely one bristlemouth per square foot of ocean globally. They're really small. They're only about 1 to 3 inches, so similar in size to a minnow. Many of them are bioluminescent. You can, if you know fishes, you can see these little dots down here. Those are usually bioluminescent photophores right there. So they glow in the dark. They do have, if you look closely, they do have these bristle needle-like teeth to catch plankton. Again, they don't have the air bladder or swim bladder that we see in other fishes, so it allows them to stay deep without having to like migrate up or down. They also, since they are considered the most abundant, They're also considered to have the most biomass, so the most weight of any vertebrate on the planet as well. And I bet you've never heard of them, but they are super duper abundant in the ocean, deep ocean. This is the deadliest fish. The deadliest fish is the stonefish. He is considered by many as the deadliest fish. He's found in the Indo-Pacific. He has razor sharp spines, 13 razor sharp spines, that lucky number 13, that inject a very potent venom that can kill a human in under an hour. These are obviously masters of camouflage. You can barely see them blending into the seafloor, which again, if you step on them, you would not know until you felt that toxic spine. And this guy is the most widely consumed fish. This is the top favored fish in the United States and globally. It's the salmon. So salmon is the most widely consumed fish. Other strong contenders are tuna, tilapia, and cod. Those are the top contenders there. It depends on the area, but bass and trout, depending on the area, are also high. But salmon is the number one consumed fish. Okay, I'm going to give you a little lesson, and I'm going to let you guys design some fish. So if you guys have paper and pencil, you can design them. If not, you don't have to. This is kind of a fun activity I do with people of all ages. But first, before we design them, we have to know all the parts of a fish so we can design them correctly. So fins. Fish have a lot of fins, or they don't have to have all these fins. Not all fish have all the fins here. Almost all fish have a back fin or a dorsal fin. That is pretty common. Fish also tend to have a caudal fin, which is a tail fin. So that is also very common. These other fins can come and go depending on the lifestyle of the fish. Common fins are the pectoral fins. I told you about the batfish that had extended pectoral fins. Pectoral fins are paired, and they are on the side of the fish, usually behind the gills. Pelvic fins, again, can come or go. Pelvic fins are, again, paired fins that are down on the belly of the fish. So we've got all kinds of new terms here. Some fish that particularly are good at maneuverability, they will have an anal fin. It'll be back here where they do their business. Some fish will even have things like fat fins. This fat fin doesn't necessarily have any function. A lot of times they're used for displays and trying to attract mates and so forth. I showed you with the bristle mouth fish all these photophores. So some fish will have photophores, particularly along their belly, for bioluminescence or other color changing. Here's two new terms you may not know. Operculum. Here's your word with an O. Operculum is the actual name for the covering over top of the gills. So this is a hard plate that covers the gill. If you lift this up, you would see all the gills right underneath it. So usually the way a fish breathes is that water goes in through his mouth, past the gills, and then out this slit behind the operculum. And then you will see also with some fish, they have this area. It's where the tail and the body connect. It's called the caudal peduncle. And the caudal peduncle sometimes can be very narrow. If the fish are very fast and they need to whip it, sometimes it can be thicker. It can be more pronounced, but that's a new term again, caudal peduncle. And the last thing on this slide is the lateral line system. The lateral line system you can find on a lot of fish, especially fish if you go fishing, you'll see it. It's this tiny series of dots, and that's your sensory organ for fish. So they can detect pressure here, they can detect orientation. This lateral line tells them where they're sitting in the water column, if they're up high, if they're down low, so they can feel water pressure. It tells them if they're swimming upside down or if they're swimming right side up. So direction, there's little sensory hairs in here that bend to give them orientation of where they are. Okay, so if you want to create your own fish, I will take you on this journey of creating your own fish. The first thing you have to do in creating your own fish, again, we have 30,000 species of fish. So more than likely, whatever fish you make is probably going to be a real fish. So first thing you have to choose a body shape. So don't put any mouths on them. Don't put any fins on them. Just choose a body shape. And you can look at all these different body shapes. Right here in the middle is a fish. This is what I call a fish, right? This is just like when someone says draw a fish, this is the body shape they end up drawing. But now you know that there's fusiform body shapes. If you're looking for someone that is really fast, if you want to make a fish that's extremely fast, you're going to go for a fusiform body shape. So again, you want it to look like a torpedo or a bullet. If you want a fish that is real well at maneuvering, getting into tight spaces, we now know this compressed body shape is the way to go. And then if you look up here, you can see that this is an accelerating body shape. What accelerating means is that you're going from 0 to 60 real fast. So these are the ones that have a little bit more strength in them. So they don't have, these are sustained speed, but these are the more ambush ones. And then you've got your ones kind of in between there. So you can do a flat shape and so forth. Okay, so if you want to draw, you can draw a body shape. And then what you can do is think about your caudal tail. Now, when I do this with groups, I usually make them take a dice and roll a dice so they don't get to choose what tail they want. So you roll a dice, and 1 through 5 is what tail you got to throw on your body. And these tails have different functions, right? As you move towards the right, these tails are more for maneuverability, for getting into those tight crevices. As you move toward the left, these tails are more designed for speed. So the lunate tail here obviously got its name from the moon, Luna. So it looks like a moon. These are the fastest. We have seen some forked ones, but you can see the tail's a little fatter here, so it's starting to lose some of its speed. Again, a normal like fish has a truncate tail. So a truncate tail is just a fish tail. It does both. It can maneuver and it can swim kind of fast, but not great at either. As we move to trying to get into, like, this is starting to look to me like somebody that lives in a stream, like a trout or a bass or something like that. So it's got to get into these crevices. It could get shallow water at some time, getting around logs. And then eels and those types of fish, as we saw like with the sunfish, they have continuous tails. So it's real close to the body. It doesn't stick out at all and really allows them to get into those, crevices. Mouths. I haven't talked about the mouth at all yet and how the mouth works. So mouth, we'll see position on the next slide, but we can see shape on this slide and how the shape of the mouth can greatly change their diet. For instance, a butterfly fish has a tubular snout that will suck it up. Same thing with a seahorse. Seahorses have like a trumpet snout that's just used for sucking up small plankton. We have really kind of silly small mouths in the sunfish, as you can see here. Again, as a plankton sucker, sucking it up. I think parrotfish are most well known for their beaks, hence their name parrotfish. So parrotfish, if you ever go snorkeling, you can hear them crunching. And they will go up and take those hard-formed beaks and crunch onto the coral. And coral is actually an invertebrate. Inside the hard part of the coral is a soft body invertebrate. And what parrotfish are doing is crunching up that coral to get rid of the hard coral to eat the soft invertebrate inside, and then they poo out the sand, comes out. This guy down here, this cod, definitely eats another fish. He's got a really large mouth that's just going to engulf the fish whole. And if you add that fish mouth shape to the fish mouth position, as you can see here, they can have it superior. So they can have like a mouth above them, so they're eating the food that's above them. Most of the times, a lot of fish have terminal mouths. They're just eating the food right in front of them that they can see. But then there's some fish that are bottom feeders, and they'll have their mouth pointed down towards the bottom. So they're eating more benthic or bottom feeding things as well. And then we're kind of adding in some other things to your fish if you were drawing and choosing a fish to make. These are different colorations and different techniques that fish use. A lot of sharks, and probably the best example is a killer whale, use what's called counter shading. And with counter shading, they have a dark back and a light belly. So with counter shading, if you are standing above them and looking down on them, the dark back would look like the dark water and you wouldn't see them. If you're underneath them and you're looking up, you would see the white. The white would look like the sun. And again, you wouldn't see them. So if you think about a killer whale, you can see that black and that white pattern. So the black, when you're looking down in the water, you can't see them. The white, you're looking up, they blend in with the sun. And we see that with a lot of sharks as well. So it's called counter shading. We have molted different colorations where they just blend into, they don't have like a solid coloration. It's very patchy, so it looks like a substrate on the bottom. This one, you probably can't even see that there's a fish in here. There is a fish. He's mimicking the environment. A lot of times they'll look like the coral. They can, again, they have photophores, so they can change color to blend in. These guys have stripes. A lot of fish will have stripes, either vertical or horizontal, that breaks up their body pattern. So they can hide in grasses and vegetation, and you can't see them. This guy has a stripe going right through his eye. And that stripe right through his eye camouflages him, because usually predators can see where the eye is, and if they know where the eye is, they'll come back here and like try to bite him. But if they can't see where the eye is and they bite too far back, he can swing around and nip them and get them. So breaking up that eye pattern, and you can't tell if that's just a reed of grass or an eye, is really a great way for him to swing back around. And then other fish have what we call false eye spots. So this looks like an eye right here. It's not. And so if somebody tries to bite him, again, he has all this space where he's able to turn back around and fight back and nip them. So I'm hoping at this point that you are in love with fish and you're in love with the diversity of fish, and now you're going to go home and put a fish tank up. And I always worry about people with their fish tanks. So I'm going to end my little talk today with chemistry. And this will deter you from a fish tank because chemistry is involved with fish tanks. But this chemistry of the fish water is what makes or breaks a fish tank. So water is so important. Chemistry of the water is so important to the fish. When you feed a fish, fish produce waste. They produce ammonia, poo. If you feed them too much, there's excess food in there. And if you had like a real fish tank, sometimes people will try to do plants and they die as well. All this waste turns into ammonia. So we're talking about the nitrogen cycle here. Turns into ammonia. Ammonia is bad. Ammonia kills fish. It's red, right? It's red in this picture. It is poisonous to fish. And so what we need to do, it's impossible to keep changing the water. Instead, we want to put good bacteria into our water so that it starts to the nitrogen cycle, because there is some forms of nitrogen that are okay for fish and is actually good for plants. And so in our filters, this is our filter here, we want bacteria to grow. We want nitrogen bacteria to grow. And these nitrifying bacteria will actually break down ammonia into nitrite. Nitrite is still not great for fish. We don't like it. But once we start doing our water chemistry and we see that nitrite is being produced, we know that we've got good bacteria in there and that we're starting the nitrogen cycle. There needs to be another type of bacteria in our filters called nitrobacter bacteria. And these are the ones that turn our nitrite into nitrate. And this is okay for fish. This is even taken up by plants. And this is when we know we have a nice, stable fish tank. So people are always trying to change and bleach everything out and clean it out all the way. But you don't want to kill these bacteria. The bacteria is actually good for our fish tanks. And so, again, I'm giving you data here. I'm giving you data and numbers and chemistry. But it lets you know if your tank has cycled. So a lot of times when people want to start a fish tank, I tell them to buy trash fish. And you're like, what is a trash fish? Goldfish. Goldfish or trash fish. They're $0.25 each. They will poo in your tank, and they are hardy as can be, and they're perfect for starting the nitrogen cycle. So you throw in some cheap goldfish, and what they do is they eat and they poo, and they're producing ammonia. And once they start producing ammonia, you'll be watching your water quality and you'll see nitrites start to come up. And you're like, okay, I'm moving through the nitrogen cycle. I'm moving through. And your ammonia should start to decrease because it should all start being converted directly into nitrite. Once you get to nitrates, you know that your tank is cycling. And when you get to the point where you have all nitrates and you don't really have any more ammonia or nitrites, then you know you have a good, healthy fish tank. And then you just keep track on your nitrates, and when they get above 40, you do a water change. And once you hit that, then you can go spend money on these gorgeous cichlid fishes and whatever expensive puffer fishes you want. And your tank is good, and then you can give the goldfish to the kid next door. So there's your little bit of chemistry today. This is always, and I'm hoping they're recording this or have the slides available for you guys to remember your nitrogen cycle later on. And I think that takes me almost to the end of my time. This is a pipefish. I did my PhD on pipefish, and I did my research on sound production. So next week I'm going to show you guys some pipefish and some sound production they make. I'm going to talk about dads of seahorses and how they provide care to developing eggs. We'll talk about what's going on with the Potomac River and fish kills. I'll talk about hearing in fish, all kinds of random fish research that you probably didn't know that we do. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can actually see you guys. And if you have any questions at this time, I'm happy to talk or answer any questions. Or if you have questions that you want to share for next week, I will be back.
All right. If you do, can you hear me through the mic? A question? Raise your hand. I will come to you with the mic so she can hear you and so that the folks that are listening online can hear you. So anyone with questions, go ahead and pop your hands up.
So there are obviously an incredibly diverse array of fish, and obviously there's multiple different types of shapes that fish can take, and these shapes serve functions. Now, I have observed, well, that's a bit too nerdy to say. I look up at fish on Google. I look up fish a lot on Google, and what I love to do is look at deep sea fish. And what I notice with deep sea fish is that they seem to have their own particular body shape, where they're much longer, skinnier, more like snakes than fish. What function would a snake-like body have at that kind of depth?
So at that depth, you have to deal with pressure. And having a swim bladder, which is that organ that maintains buoyancy, is not feasible at those depths. It would just crush it. So a lot of times they have that longer, thinner body to kind of equilibrate the pressure. So it's, if you're a small circular blob, having that deep sea pressure would be a lot. But if you could increase your surface area, it basically equals out the pressure across your body and your organs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I actually have a question about eels. I heard that there has not been proven how they have babies. Have they figured out a way to figure that out?
Oh, how eels reproduce? That's a good question. I'll have to look into that. Maybe I'll see if I can find and come back to that. I don't know much about eels myself. I'm a ray fin fish kind of gal. That's what I've always studied. But I don't know. I'll look into that and get back to you. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Sure.
What was the type of fish that lived the longest again, and how long was it?
The Greenland shark, and it could live up to 500 years.
Greenwood?
Greenland.
Oh, Greenland. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry for the delay. There you go.
For my 8th birthday, we actually went to the Georgia Aquarium and got to see the whale shark.
Okay, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear with all the background chattering.
For my 8th birthday, we actually went to the Georgia Aquarium and saw the whale shark.
Did you? That is so exciting. Isn't it amazing? I think they had 2 of them, and I think one of them just recently died. I can't imagine what you do with a dead whale shark. Like if you're in an aquarium, what do you do with it when it dies? I don't know.
Anybody else have a question? Pop that hand up. We'll get to you. Nobody? All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for presenting. And please come back next week for another exciting class.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to share bizarre fish stuff with you guys. Thank you guys so much.